Hi, I'm Jesse Jacobs. I'm here today at Samovar Tea Lounge with Chuck Siegal, founder of Charles Chocolates, and an amazing group of tea and chocolate fanatics. Starting off, tasting tea. I know that there's a lot of similarities with tasting chocolate. From the tea world, we want to look for aroma, taste, aftertaste, body. How does it work with chocolate? How does someone taste tea so we can do it right?
Well, it's remarkably similar because we're dealing with things that come from nature, ultimately. So a lot of the same language is used, whether it's earthy, grassy, clean. All of the things that we think about when we taste chocolate work very well when we're tasting tea as well. So what we're looking for is flavor characteristics that make chocolate unique. And kind of the way we've set it up is we've set it up where we're doing just plain chocolate truffles using 6 different chocolates, except for one of them, which is a white chocolate that we'll talk about a little bit. All of them are very similar if you look at it on paper, the percentage of cacao and everything else. But just by virtue of geography and cocoa bean type, we get remarkably different characteristics.
So starting off with the first tea, we're taking a breakfast blend, and a breakfast blend is known as a traditional tea to capture the right flavor profiles of a
Kings of Leon effect.
I know. We're not eating any birds today. But it basically is the signature flavor. That's where breakfast blend idea came from.
And then on the chocolate side, we're pairing it with a ganache that's made from a chocolate actually that's local, from the Guittard Chocolate Company in Burlingame. It's one of their e-Guittard chocolates. And similar to the idea behind a breakfast blend, which is kind of creating a really nice, very universal, very easy blend, this is a blended chocolate. So it has cocoa beans from different parts of the world blended together to create a really nice, very smooth, very even flavor profile. There's tasting chocolate and there's actually tasting confections, but we're eating our chocolate truffles today. So we've taken the chocolate, we've just blended it basically, or mixed it with cream, making a very, very basic ganache. We're not adding anything else to it that could add an off flavor or a complementary flavor. It's just chocolate and cream and then coated in bittersweet chocolate. So the best way to eat a truffle is to get as much of the center, the ganache, as possible in the bite and let that really rule the bite. You'll notice that the shell, this is a shell molded truffle, is very thin. It's really just a delivery vehicle for a soft filling. So it's not supposed to be the dominant flavor. The dominant flavor should be what you're getting inside with the ganache.
One of the things about this tea that makes this tea unique is that it's fairly low in caffeine, and it's actually a green tea. So it looks black. If you saw the leaves, actually we're going to pass these around. You can look and smell at these too. You get the first of everything. It's a roasted green tea from Japan, and it's called hojicha. And it's very soothing, clean, singular taste, a little bit malty, a little bit woodsy. And I like it actually before bed. It's pretty low in caffeine, so it's just soothing. It's
and the roastiness, I mean, that's one of the characteristics of this chocolate. That was the, when we were tasting the tea and the chocolate, it was kind of like the roasty notes in this chocolate was really kind of what brought these two together.
Versus everything else. These paired
exactly.
Well. Yeah, no, I agree. So this tea, all right, so this fourth one here is called Royal Garland, and that's a good question. So this is an oolong tea in our oolong category. Why this is unique is because it's actually from Fujian province in China, which is where white tea is produced. And white tea is an unprocessed tea made from the downy white tea leaves, unopened buds. So they've actually used white tea leaves and made an oolong tea from it.
No, this is, with this chocolate, I think what we're looking at was almost the vegetal taste. And
I get the kick from this one. It's like you feel the astringency, the body, So Phoenix Oolong, what is unique about this one here? So the other name for this oolong is honey orchid. And with these kind of oolongs, it's nice to rinse them first to open up the leaves. They have so many infusions, or what they call patience. Patience is the ability to re-steep and explore and enjoy the leaves, that you started off best by rinsing them and opening the leaves a little bit to begin the journey. Some of the flavors that we use to describe this one are like caramelized stone fruits, burnt sugar, really like this sweet, floral, tropical intense aroma, like a real thickness, a humidity to it that come naturally from the tea. It's not, there's no flavor added. There is no peach added to this. So.
By the way, this is the one we're eating right now, which is the Madagascar.
Okay. And why did we pick this one? What was?
We picked this because it had that kind of like almost caramelly, like again, deeply sweet flavor, but the sweetness not from sugar, from the beans themselves and from the chocolate itself.
Is this the one that was from Theo?
There's a lot of fruit in that chocolate.
There really is, and that's a characteristic of the Madagascar bean.
So this one here is very different. This is actually a fermented tea, which is like a, we call it pu'er, or another word for it is bole. And think of it as a blue cheese of tea, where it really is fermented and aged over many years. Some of them, we had one from 1947 at one point, and it wasn't necessarily really great, but it was very expensive and very unique. This one is not that old. This is called Maiden's Ecstasy, and it's known as this caliber of leaf. It's a high-grade leaf, and it's used as a wedding dowry gift, actually. So this is from Yunnan province, and high-caliber leaf and used in family relations. So the chocolate.
So the chocolate, we actually went in a slightly different direction with this chocolate. This is from a company called Valrhona in France, considered one of the best makers of chocolate in the world, and a substantial business. I mean, it's a big company. You can actually buy Valrhona chocolate bars at Trader Joe's at a great price, by the way. This is one of their blends. It's called Manjari. It's a remarkable chocolate, but it wasn't designed to have a lot of the same characteristics as the pu'er, because quite frankly, there isn't a chocolate that I could identify that could pair that way. So we went in a slightly different direction, which is just finding a chocolate that tasted really good with the strong kind of that fermented flavor of the pu'er. So again, slightly different in terms of how we matched it and why we matched it, but still tastes great together. That's this one.
This one here. Any flavor comments on this one? We passed the leaves around too, you'll see it. Here we go again. So now we have the matcha shake, and if you get a chance, I'll take a little up here too. And I don't think you ever had this one.
I haven't had it,
so,
but I know from Dina that it's fantastic.
So this is exactly. This is the green tea equivalent in intensity of the pu'er that we just had. And because it can be overpowering for some people in its grassy experience, chlorophyll infused flavor, we actually make a shake out of it to make it a little more approachable and entry level. What's that? Yeah, sure. Thank you. 2, please, for us. So we blend it with soy milk and our coconut palm sweetener that we now have used throughout Samovar. And it makes it a little more approachable. If you love this and you like the grassiness, then try a real matcha, which is made with this. This is a whisk and a matcha bowl. And we actually whisk it with a small scoop of matcha and you drink the whole thing. So you're eating the tea. That's what makes matcha really different. You're actually eating the product, like chocolate. All the other teas, you're eating or drinking the infusion of it.
And this is the most unique of the ganaches that we've made as well. What we actually did is we took the matcha and combined it with the cream that we used to make the ganache, added it to a white chocolate. Now this is, again, kind of unique. Most people, when they think of white chocolate, basically think of, well, sugar. Because most white chocolate that you buy has very little flavor other than sugar and dairy. But a really good white chocolate made from cocoa butter that hasn't been deodorized still has a really wonderful flavor, although albeit mild. This is from, again, a small craft chocolate company called Ashkenazi Chocolate in Springfield, Missouri, that's making some really fantastic chocolate. We actually have a bonus truffle that we didn't pair that we'll hand out at the end with one of his other chocolates that I just happen to love, one of his bittersweets. Now, this is also very sweet because we're using white chocolate. We want the grassiness, that really matcha characteristic to come through in the ganache. If we had used a darker chocolate, milk or bittersweet, it would have been completely lost.
So what you're doing is eating, so matcha, you're eating the tea. Well, the other teas, you're actually drinking the infusion from the leaves. So in order to eat it, it's got to immerse well in the liquid. And what they do is they pulverize it or grind it extremely fine. It's almost like baby powder. The higher quality, the fresher it is and the finer it is. It'll just color your fingers green. You won't even feel tea leaves. And the way they do that, in the commercial approach, they have rooms as big as this room with huge wheels, and we have a mini version, that are 2 huge granite wheels on top of each other, hooked up to a machine that are turning them. So the tea, raw tea, comes in the top, and it's squeezed between the blades or the grooves in these wheels as they grind, and the tea slowly leaks out the sides, and they collect what leaks out the sides. And that's the matcha. That's how it's, and everyone in there has dust masks and everything, because if you blow it into the air, it sits there in the air. Really, really finely pulverized. And there are all different grades. Oh yeah, please pass this around. Don't sneeze. So any other questions or anything? Yeah?
Talk a little bit about the water temperature.
Sure. I guess the high level would be that for me, I want tea to be approachable, and that this kind of setup can often be intimidating with loose leaves and all this other stuff. So at the end of the day, it's totally personal, and I find that there are no rules that really hold them. That said, more delicate tea, you want to have lower water temperature. So white tea, green tea, not really the matcha, but traditional Japanese senchas, jasmine green tea from China, a little lower so it won't burn the tea. If you were to use hot water and brew it very quickly, that's fine too. It's just to really control the leaves. I would say the biggest rule of thumb for brewing good tea for us that we use here is fresh tea that's consistent, obviously knowing where you get it, but then in brewing it, using more tea than you think is good. And doing multiple infusions, and you'll have a much better experience. The worst thing about tea bags is that they've trained us that you only use a minuscule amount of tea for a cup of water. And we use both fresher tea than what's in tea bags, but also probably 5 or 6 times the quantity for the same volume. So if you were to add 1 tea bag to this, we would probably add about 5 tea bags to it. Not tea bags, but the equivalent quantity. So really looking at adding, rule of thumb is more tea, less time. More infusions. So you just re-steep the leaves, and that creates a more pleasant experience that's really more full-bodied, that brings tea into the world of wine and that kind of connoisseurship.
You put tea in your chocolates, right? Or tea flavor? What do you do in the chocolate?
When we use tea and chocolate, we actually make an infusion as well. The difference being we're infusing into cream rather than infusing into water. So we have to be particularly aware of the qualities of tea when steeped for a very long time. We use also a lot of tea relative to, say, making a cup of tea, because we're steeping into something that has a high fat content. It doesn't travel as easily between the leaves and the liquid. But we also have to steep it for a relatively long time for the same reason. For example, with the matcha, well, the matcha is a little different because, again, to Jesse's point, it's the only one where we've actually put the matcha in and we're consuming it. So we're actually consuming the matcha in the ganache, where traditionally what you're doing is you're flavoring cream and then using that flavored cream to make the truffle. So a completely different method of making the candy, but it's very similar to what Jesse was saying, where you use a lot more tea to get as full of flavor as possible. But again, for us, we have to steep it longer.
Any other questions? No? All right. So where can we find you and Charles Chocolates, for those who don't know?
Well, here in San Francisco, our store's in the San Francisco Center. It's on the 3rd floor under the dome. But probably the easiest way for anyone to find it is on our website, charleschocolates.com. And we ship all over the world.
Awesome.
I'm assuming we're being watched all over the world.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesse. It was awesome.
And
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you all for being here. We'll be doing more of these as time goes on, so definitely follow us at Samovar Life on Twitter, at
charleschocolates.com.
Chocolates.com.
Oh, actually, Twitter, Charles Choco.
Charles Choco on
We ran out of letters.
So yeah, stay tuned, and again, thanks for being part of it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.